Hello Internet! In this video we are going to be looking at Glastrier, another legendary Pokemon legal to VGC introduced by the Crown Tundra. I will take you through the ways I think it can be used and give you the sets, the spreads, the EVs, everything I've put with it, and pick out my favourite set at the end as well. To start off with though, let's have a look at what this Ice Horse has got. It is just a single typing, ice typing. It has got a fantastic ability in Chilling Neigh, which is essentially Mock, so you get a +1 attack if you knock out a Pokemon. And we have got a lot of stats down here as well. A massive base stat total, and not only a massive base stat total, but a pretty good stat distribution as well. You know, the special attack can be ignored, everything else can be used to some advantage. The base attack of 145 means it is going to be doing a lot of damage, and look at the bulk as well. HP 100, defense 130, special defense 110. It is a very, very, very bulky Pokemon. The base speed of 30, you know, on first impressions maybe is the downside, but obviously we know that Trick Room is a very common strategy in VGC, and a base speed of 30 is actually pretty good to be utilized under Trick Room. So it looks like, you know, for a Trick Room attacker, its stats are, you know, almost perfectly distributed actually. It's got, you know, amazing stats. But because they are distributed this way, at the same time, it is a bit one-dimensional. It has kind of horseshoehorned itself into the role of being a Trick Room attacker. So it's not, maybe not the most flexible Pokemon, but we'll see, I suppose, won't we? Let's have a look at the attacks it learns, though. I have picked out here probably the most viable moves that Glastrier will learn. You know, it can learn others, but these are the ones that you're probably going to see most on it. And even then, that's a bit generous. But we can see that there's quite a lot of good offensive options. There are lots of different types, lots of different coverage moves that we can use. Obviously, we've got ice attacks, but we've got fighting, steel, bug, dragon, ground, dark as well, all kinds. Support and setup options are not that great. Swords Dance is pretty good, but the rest, well, Taunt, okay, Torment, Substitute, Iron Defense. You know, I'm sure you can see there is the combination of Body Press and Iron Defense there, which you've seen work with things like Ferrothorn in the past. That isn't a combination that makes any appearance in any of the sets that I've made in this video, just because I think it would be a shame not to use that base 145 attack. You know, I think sets like that are better used for, you know, Corviknight and Ferrothorn and actual Steel types. But yes, we can see that it's got lots of offensive options here. Normally, when I go to EV my Pokemon, I think about, okay, what kind of position do I want to put them in? The speed is the first thing that I would think of, but this next screen is going to be a bit bare, really. You might have seen in the other videos that I've got different benchmarks that you might want to put your base speeds at, but as I was mentioning, looking at the stats of Glastrier, it has kind of shoehorned itself into being just a slow Trick Room attacker. Now, that means you can essentially speed type with a Moongus, if that's minimum speed as well too, with a minus speed nature, with 0 IVs in speed as well too. But, you know, other than that, I'm not really sure if you would want to invest in speed. I don't think so. Maybe, you know, a slightly higher IV than 0 so that you're a bit faster than other base 30s when you're out of Trick Room, maybe. But at the same time, just being as slow as possible if you're using it in Trick Room, which I imagine most people will be, it just makes the most sense. So just absolute minimum speed makes the most sense here. Now, we've seen, you know, it's got a lot of attacking options, not so many support options. It's got really, really good stats apart from the speed, which makes it very slow. So it does seem like quite a one-dimensional Pokemon. It seems like it's something that can only really be used, you know, effectively in Trick Room. Obviously, out of Trick Room, you know, it can still be effective, but it's just not going to be moving first after Trick Room. So I have got 3 sets here to show you. They are a bit different to each other. You will see when we get down to them, but they are all similar in some ways. The first set, I'm calling the bulkiest set. I'm going to show you how it's just got 4 attacks, so I'm sure you can guess what the item is on on this Glastrier. We've got Icicle Crash, which, by the way, is, I guess, interchangeable with Icicle Spear. Icicle Spear is more accurate, but has got the RNG element of hitting 2 to 5 times. Icicle Crash has got a flinch chance, and generally, you know, on odds-wise, you know, percentage-wise, does do more damage than Icicle Spear. But, you know, there is that 10% chance it can miss, I suppose. There's Close Combat, there's High Horsepower, and I've put Lash Out on here as well. So we've got the Ice, but we've also got Fighting and Ground and Dark coverage as well. Because this is an Assault Vest. Glastrier. Now, you're looking at that spread and you're thinking, oh, come on, Barry, you can do better than that. And believe me, I looked at this spread for a while, and I have got an alternative in the moment as well too, but I do think for an Assault Vest set, I think just a 252 like this is actually the best EVs you can go for, which is, quite sad because, like my intricate spreads and everything. But I'll show you my my evidence in just a moment. But because the defense and special defense and HP are so high, it does actually, statistically, mathematically make more sense just to invest into the HP. It really does. And because this is Assault Vest, we haven't really got any ways to raise our attack, I suppose, outside of the max fighting, if we die in the max. So just the max attack, just to make most advantage of potential Trick Room turns to output as much damage as possible. So very, very, very simple spread there. Let's have a look at a few calculations. So because we have got the Assault Vest here, these are all defensive calculations, because we have, or half of them anyway, because we have got the Assault Vest there, we can see this is the benchmark that I was going for. Torkoal, which is slower than Glastrier, with the charcoal in the sun with a full power eruption, will not knock this Glastrier out. And that is the level of bulk this Pokemon has. The Life Orb, Nihiligo's max Rockfall from Power Gem, that is, still has only got a 6% chance to one-shot this Glastrier as well too. So very, 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 very bulky there. With the HP investment that we've got, 252, you can see that Stack Attacker's Rock Slide is, a 3-hit KO. It can't knock you out in 2 hits. And just to see the sort of benchmark of what Metagross is going to do there, about 70%, 75% with a Meteor Mash 2. There's not really any way to avoid that, really. Assault Vest doesn't help that out. And yeah, okay, that's the 252 spread. I did try and make a slightly different spread. Any alternative with an Assault Vest you could go for would look a bit like this. I've taken a bit out of the HP and I've put it a little bit more into the special defense. I do like, especially when using an Assault Vest, I do like to have an even stat on the special defense, because then you're getting an extra stat point. You're getting an extra stat from the Assault Vest. So it does make sense like that. But the calculations do come out a little bit different. You can see we still survived the eruption. The max Rockfall from the Power Gem Life Orb Nihiligo is a guaranteed survive now, but you can see the Stack Attacker's Rock Slide does a little bit more damage. There is a little chance for it to 2-hit KO, and the Meteor Mash does a bit more damage as well. I'll just sort of flick between the two here. You can see that's the first one, 252, and that's the second spread. So you can see that actually the physical defense is a little, a decent amount worse on this second spread, just because we've taken some of the HP investment out there and put it into special defense. But the special defense does give you the guaranteed survive of the Nihiligo max Rockfall, which Nihiligo is bound to have its time again in VGC, isn't it? That's why I thought it might be somewhat significant there. Offensive calculations. These are not the most impressive, to be completely honest, because again, there's no way to boost the attack here. So that's why it is just fully invested into the attack. So these are all just to get a good idea of the kind of damage it will do. An Icicle Crash onto a max physical bulk Amoonguss do about 3/4. High horsepower to a Metagross does just over half, about 60%. A high horsepower to Heatran should knock it out. Close combat to a Stack Attacker should knock it out if they haven't got the resist berries as well there too. So a very, very straightforward spread. You can either go 252 just like that, which makes a lot of sense, or you can try and be a bit fancier like that, which is a bit more special bulk, slightly, but you do lose out on a bit of physical bulk. To be honest, I would just go 252, as sad as that is. As much as I don't want to admit that 252 is probably the better option there. So the next set I'm going to show you is not the bulkiest set. It is the Tomb Setup set, which sounds very ominous. But we have got Protect on here, because this isn't an Assault Vest set. We've got Icicle Crash, we've got High Horsepower, and we've got Lash Out as well as the last move. And I will explain why in just a moment. But this set is a little bit different. Because we haven't got an Assault Vest on here, I think I did compensate for a little bit of the special bulk that we lost from not having the Assault Vest. We took some of it out of the attack there because we have got a weakness policy on this Glastrier. So there is a way that we can boost our attack here, and this is actually a really, really, really nifty spread. I will show you at some point as well in a few moments why it is such a nifty spread. But yeah, we've got still a lot of attack investment. We've got more bulk. we've got Lash Out, Protect, because, as I'm sure you can imagine, this set is intended to be partnered with something like one of these Pokemon. A Trick Room setter that is slower than Glastrier, so slower than a base 30 speed, and has Rock Tomb. Now, that's significant in a few ways. The only two Pokemon that do this, well, I mean, there's a few others like Bronzor and stuff like that, but the best two options, I guess, to do this are Mashana and Dusclops. And I like the Mashana, actually, because you can have the safety goggles on that too. Now, Amoonguss is often used as one of the bigger checks for Trick Room, but if you get Trick Room up with this Mashana and Glastrier in, you've got a pretty good setup here, because with the safety goggles especially, they can't Rage Powder any attacks away. You can go for a Rock Tomb. You will be faster in Trick Room. Mashana's got a base speed of 29. You can go for the Rock Tomb into your own Glastrier, which will then activate the weakness policy, lower its speed, so then you will be slower than even Torkoal in Trick Room, and get the +2 to your offensive stats as well. So I quite like the idea of that. Dusclops does work as well. It is a bit bulkier than Mashana, obviously, but at the same time, it can be, its attacks can be Rage Powdered away. You can't have an item other than the Eviolite on there. So I quite like this weakness policy. Let's have a look at a few of the calculations. So, okay, and this is why I was going with Lash Out as well too. These are the offensive calculations. So let's say you're in Trick Room, you've got your Rock Tomb off, you're at +2 attack, and your opponent has got a Dusclops, your opponent has got a Cresselia. You might have a hard Trick Room team, and they're going to use their Cresselia to reset the Trick Room. Well, no they're not, because if you Rock Tomb into your Glastrier, activate the weakness policy, because Rock Tomb lowers your speed, as well as activates the weakness policy, the Lash Out ability means that it gets double the power, because one of your stats has been lowered on that turn. So, this isn't a Dynamax move. This is just a Lash Out with its extra ability into a Cresselia at +2. It one-shots it. Even if they have intimidated you and you're only at +1 instead of +2, you have still got very, very good odds to one-shot the Cresselia. And almost the same for the Dusclops as well. Not quite as much, but if they haven't intimidated you, if you're at +2, you will one-shot a Dusclops. So that's pretty interesting. If you do activate your weakness policy, again, with the Rock Tomb, you'll be slower than a Moongus, so you don't have to worry about that speed tie, and you can Icicle Crash into it. Again, at +2, you will do a lot of damage. At +1, again, if they intimidate, you will still one-shot a max physical defense Amoonguss, which is very impressive. And at +2, you will be able to high horsepower and one-shot a Metagross as well, unless they're Dynamax. So some really, really tasty weakness policy +2 calculations there. Because we did add a little bit of special bulk to it, because, we didn't have the Assault Vest on it. Here are a few of the defensive calculations. Now, bear in mind, this top calculation is without the sun. So this is still a Charcoal Torkoal with a full power eruption, not in the sun. So if you've got some way to disrupt the weather, this is not in the sun, but it's still a decent baseline to have. You will survive the attack. A Life Orb, Duraludon, Max Steel Spike, you won't survive without the Assault Vest, but you will survive a Flash Cannon. You can see their maximum of 94%. Same with the Nihilego, you won't survive without the Assault Vest. A Max Rockfall, but you will survive the Power Gem, maximum there of essentially 88%. And this bottom calculation, this is why I thought the spread was a little bit nifty, because Heatran in the sun is something that you realistically could come against. And this is a Heatran Heatwave max special attack in the sun. This isn't even Assault Vest, and we can survive that with the investment that I've put on there. I think it's a pretty nifty set, because the special defense investment and the HP investment does help you survive that nice attack from Heatran, but also you've just hit the bump on the attack as well there too. One less EV in attack and you're at 207, as opposed to the 209 here with 196 EVs. So I do like this spread. I like this spread a lot, actually. So that's the weakness policy set. I think it's actually really, really nifty. Pairing it with Rock Tomb, because not only are you lowering your speed, which is excellent for Trick Room, makes you slower than other Amoonguss, slower than Torkoal, it also boosts your attack stats, and you are instantly outputting lots of damage, which is what you want to do in Trick Room. You want to make the most of your turns there. So there you go, a weakness policy set. The third set I'm going to show you is the DIY setup set, the do-it-yourself setup, which is essentially Icicle Crash, High Horsepower, Protect, and Sword Stance. And this is where Glastrier just does it itself, basically. And, okay, we haven't got close combat. I didn't have close combat on the last one either, actually, because although it is a good fighting attack, this is such a bulky Pokemon. I think it is a shame to be lowering your defense and special defense stats. And actually, the combination of ice and ground is a really good combination too, because ground hits the fire Pokemon, it hits the steel Pokemon that your ice stab doesn't hit very well. So the combination of ice and ground does work well together. Swords Dance is an option if you don't want to go with the weakness policy, to essentially, like the title says, do it yourself. This is a spread that I'm going for, just exactly the same as the last spread, the same as the weakness policy set, but instead of having a weakness policy, we can instead have the safety goggles, so you are still protected from Amoonguss. Again, Amoonguss, speed ties, again with minimum speed, Glastrier if it's minimum speed as well too. It is a good answer to Trick Room, reasonable answer, Amoonguss. So having if this is, your main Trick Room attacker or one of your main Trick Room attackers, having it be essentially immune to Amoonguss is a very good way to go there. So having the safety goggles on there, obviously different items work as well. You could go with the citrus berry or, a lumberry or, different items there. I just like the safety goggles. And so with this, it's the same spread because it essentially works the same as the weakness policy set. You can Swords Dance to get your +2 instead of having your partner activate the weakness policy. So this is less reliant on your partner rock tombing you, and it allows you to actually be able to become, offensive in Trick Room as well. If the opponent is stalling Trick Room, turns out, by protecting and swapping around or whatever, you can call that, you can go for a Swords Dance, and then instantly become, a massive threat, even more of a threat. So the calculation's essentially just the same as the last one. Again, at +2, the Lash Out is going to one-shot. Actually, we're not going to get that's incorrect. Ignore those first two then, because you're not going to get the boost on the Lash Out because your stats haven't been lowered that turn. So ignore those two, but still the +2 Icicle Crash will get Amoonguss. +2 high horsepower will get Metagross if it doesn't Dynamax. Same defensive calculations as well too, because it's the same spread. So Torkoal out of Sun, you will survive its full power eruption. And just the same as before, you can survive Flash Cannon, Power Gem with Life Orb, Heat Wave in the Sun from Heatran as well. So some pretty nice numbers there, some nice calculations on the defense. Now, I have spent most of this video talking about how Glastrier can work in Trick Room and how it's an offensive Trick Room attacker, and how maybe if it's out of Trick Room, it's not going to be moving first, maybe isn't going to be as much of a oppressive threat, but just as a little mention, I'm going to put, two other partners that can go with it here as well too, that are not necessarily slow. We've got fast Pokemon, for Moveset, Raichu, you can see here, with Speed Swap. Alakazam, Ribombee, a few other Pokemon that are fast do get Speed Swap as well. But, if the only stat that this Pokemon has got that's low is its speed, if you can Speed Swap it, make it as fast as a Pheromosa, then wow, you've essentially got a Pokemon with the stats of a restricted Pokemon there, haven't you? So, just as an honourable mention here, you can, maybe in those Switch teams that have a Trick Room mode and a fast mode, you can slip something like this on and get a Speed Swap and have a very, very, very fast horse instead. But these three sets, okay, they're all somewhat similar. They've all got high horsepower and Icicle Crash. My pick out of these three would be the weakness policy one, though. I do like the combination with it and Mashana. Again, it can work with the Dusclops, but Mashana's a bit cooler, isn't it, if we're all honest with ourselves? Because not only do you get the power, the extra boost on the Lash Out, so that you can one-shot other potential Trick Room setters on the opposing side that will try and reverse the Trick Room, you are lowering your speed as well with the Rock Tomb, so that you're lowering yourselves so that you will be faster in Trick Room than Amoonguss, faster in Trick Room than Torkoal, and become that much more of a threat, with a -1 speed and the +2 attack. So I do like this. Also, having the option to protect is quite nice as well. And I don't think you really need the fighting coverage that Close Combat gave as well too. I did use Glastrier a little bit. I used an Assault Vest set, and I wasn't that convinced by it, to be completely honest, just because, okay, it's very, very bulky, but when you get in Trick Room, when you get it in there, it can be intimidated. It hasn't really got any way, aside from knocking things out, to boost its own attack stat. And so having this option, the weakness policy, again, Swords Dance works as well, but having this weakness policy option with the Rock Tomb just makes it an instant threat in Trick Room, especially if you have got, the safety goggles on the Mashana. No Amoonguss is going to stop you doing that. Mashana is slower than Amoonguss. You can Rock Tomb it first, and then you are slower with the with the reduced speed as well too. So I do like this set, I really do. So for a Pokemon that does look like it's quite a one-dimensional Pokemon, there are a few different ways that you can use it. It isn't that versatile, to be completely honest. You know, at the end of the day, it's got a base 30 speed, so it's never going to be fast unless you do use Speed Swap on it. But I hope I've given you some something to think about. I hope I've given you some options here, some different ways that you could maybe try playing around with your Glastrier. But I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you for joining me, and goodbye for now.